Hello and welcome to the Tamp podcast. This is a podcast series where I will be speaking to an array of customers and guests of Tamp Coffee, sitting here discussing all sorts of topics from music and film to business to physical and mental health, sports and much, much more. So guys, stay tuned and please don't forget to subscribe, like and comment.
More than 50% of the UK's wealth is being transferred to the hands of women in 2025, which is very encouraging.
50%.
More than 50%.
What would be a financial red flag in a relationship?
Infidelity. There's a thing called financial infidelity, right? So if your partner hides things from you, such as debt or purchases and things like this,
Or I guess even another income.
I think for me, these are red flags.
Do you play the lottery?
No, I used to a long time ago. I don't believe in lottery. We say money is like it's blunt. It can either be used for good or bad. And if you decide that your money is going to do something for you, you need to own it. And that's what I see. I see people victims of their own money. Be a disciplined and consistent investor, because that's what is going to make a lot of difference. People think I'm going to open an account, put £5,000 in, and forget about it. And in 10 years time, I'm a millionaire. It's not how it works. Money needs money to grow, at least in stocks and shares. Time is the biggest asset in personal finances. The sooner you start working towards something with money, the more returns you can have because you have time.
Hello and welcome to the Tamp podcast. Today's guest is an inspiring woman. She is a financial educator, an independent financial advisor. She is the founder of Master Your Finances and a very dear friend. Letícia Fonseca, welcome to the Tamp podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Dorian. I'm so excited.
The intro okay?
Yes.
As I mentioned to you when I first threw the idea of coming on the podcast, this podcast is very much kind of split into people's personal journeys and experiences as well as their expertise.
Okay.
So we like to kind of find out what led people to be in the position they're in, how they got there. So I'm going to start with the first question, and I'd like you to tell me a little bit about your background. And this is a question, it's kind of become a question I'm now bringing up in every podcast. Who was Letícia before finance?
Oh dear. Okay, so to give you a little bit of background, where should we start? So let's start with me coming to the UK in 2005. So this year was 20 years that I came to the UK. So I started like many other immigrants here. I couldn't speak English. I would go to school to learn. And then I started working as a waitress. And then slowly, as I could improve my English, I learned that I could move and get other jobs. So I worked in customer service. Then I had my first corporate job in British Telecom. So I worked for 7 years at BT. And then I worked in market sales and marketing. And that is a little bit about my profession before I became a financial educator in 2019. But as for the reason why I became that, goes back far, more than...
I was going to say, I want to go further back.
Right. So let's go back to 1995 when my parents get divorced and my mom sees herself lost financially because although my dad wasn't very good with money, he was the one that managed money in our family. And my mom felt very lost. And I thought, I don't want this for myself. And I knew then that I wanted to create a different reality for me. But now let's fast forward again to after, I came to London. That's where I met my first husband and we got married and we were happy together for a few years. And then we broke up. And this was a very challenging breakup for me because at the time, there was a lot of conversations about splitting our assets and finances. And then I got depressed and I went into a journey of self-discovery and personal development. And within this journey, I discovered what I call my superpower with money. And this superpower, and I want to say there's a caveat that people think that because I work with finances, I am good with numbers. I have a degree in languages. That was my first degree in languages. And I am not very good with numbers, but I learned to make good financial decisions. And that's where it all came from.
Well, I mean, I don't think you necessarily need to be good with numbers. For example, I'm terrible with numbers and I run a business. If I'm not wrong, I mean, someone can look this up and correct me online later, but I'm pretty sure that people like Richard Branson failed business studies at school or didn't get a good result. I think Alan Sugar again didn't finish his
No, he didn't.
higher education. So I don't think I can see that, but I don't think necessarily being good with numbers means is a guarantee to be good with finances.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I have never been, a master in numbers, but I learned to be, to make good financial decisions. And I think it's what I'm very good at. It is understanding the value. So it's value when you compare to finances and money, the money that you're paying for the value. And yeah, that's what I do. I help people
Value and
make
risk.
yeah, make good financial decisions, understand value and risk. Yeah, it's there's a lot that comes with it.
And let's go back to your early days in London because I'm curious. Like that must have been firstly a massive culture shock, and secondly a massive learning curve. Because I mean, your background, you're from Brazil, right?
Yes.
And I've spent some time in Brazil, and Brazil is very different to the UK. It is a culture shock. I've seen it the other way around, going there and spending a lot of time there, and it was a culture shock. But coming here and not speaking the language, I mean, that's intense.
Yeah. So London was my first international trip ever. I had never left Brazil before I came to London.
Wow.
And coming to a different town, so I went to university in my hometown. And a year before I came to London, I lived in Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. But it was the first time that I had actually left my hometown to live somewhere. So I had kind of like a training program for a year living in Brasilia. But London was my very first international experience. And, I was 25, I couldn't speak English, I had just finished university. It was difficult. And when I think about it, it's almost insane. It's almost irresponsible to do this. I left all my life behind and I came to London at the time was just to learn English and go back and do a master's in linguistics. That's all I wanted to
So the
do.
intention was just to learn English.
Yeah. Because I started a master's in Brasilia, but because I couldn't speak English, I thought I'm going to London, learn English, and then go back and finish my studies. That was the whole intention. But then I met my first husband, and then my life changed. Yeah.
Do you miss it?
Brazil.
Yeah.
Yes, I do miss Brazil. There's a lot of things about Brazil that you can't find anywhere. And the happiness that people have, the sunshine, the fruits and the vegetables and fresh food. I really miss that. And obviously my friends and family. But I feel that London is a great place for you to go after big opportunities. And I don't think my life would have changed as many times that it has. And I would have achieved everything that I achieved, even having my own business, if I were in Brazil. I think I would have had a completely different life.
I think you're right. I agree with you on that. London does have a massive amount of opportunities, more than many other cities, many
Yeah.
other capitals. One of the reasons that I've not found myself in Brazil at this stage is because I never saw the ability for entrepreneurship in Brazil as I've seen here. Here, I see you can start something small and grow it without having huge wealth or assets behind you.
Yeah.
My understanding of Brazil, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a lot harder. I think in Brazil, the entrepreneurs tend to be people who are already wealthy and who already have access to big funds.
Or people have no choice. Like mothers, solo mothers that, they have to work around the schedule of their children. I think it's one or the other. I agree with you. And here, you don't need much to start. And also in my career, after 3 years that I had Master of Finances, I discovered the amount of incentive that the UK government offers to small businesses to start. And I discover more and more things every day. There's a lot of support available, free support, mentoring, funds, a lot of things are available that I don't know that this is available in Brazil. I left very young, so I haven't, I didn't have the opportunity to try that.
Well, you say you're not aware of what might be available in Brazil. I think even here in the UK, a lot of people aren't aware of what available
No,
is for them here in the
no.
UK. So that's why I think it's really good that you're doing what you're doing, and passing on this information. Because unless you know where to look, you don't know where to find these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. A lot of universities, there's so much available. For small businesses here.
But not even for non-universities, through banks. Banks have to often, small startup schemes. The government has startup schemes. As you said, you can get financial advice, you can get business mentoring, you can even get access to some grants.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for anyone getting into business or starting their own business to be able to have access to this information.
Yeah. There's even a lot of support specialized for like women or immigrants or lots of different kinds of support.
Which is why I think it's fascinating that you found your niche, because you're quite clear in your goal to empower women.
Yes.
And, that's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on here, because finance is a world which has historically been dominated by men.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see people break that mold.
Yeah.
And this platform, as small as it is or as big as it may be, I want to share this platform with you,
Yeah.
basically.
Thank you. Actually, there was in the news this year that more than 50% of the UK's wealth is being transferred to the hands of women in 2025, which is very encouraging.
50%.
More than 50%.
That's massive.
Yes. But the thing is, are these women prepared to manage their finances? Because I still hear a lot of women to say, oh, no, I don't understand about money, so I leave it for my partner. This is all well and good when things go well. But when things don't go well, women are left 28% less wealthy after divorce, for example. I see so many this last weekend, I heard 2 stories from women that I know that went through divorce and things went really bad for them because they don't have the control. They don't control their finances. And it's all well and when things are well, but when they have to split the assets, women always get, the worst end of the stick in the majority of the cases if they're not on top of their finances.
That brings me on to another area which I wanted to bring up. I was going to bring up later on, but I think you've brought this up now. There's a few big issues with regards to financing and relationships which are difficult. So one of the first things I'd like to ask you is, in a relationship, let's say things are going well, how do you talk about money without fighting?
I actually have a client that I'm working with, and in my own experience, my husband, he's not somebody who is naturally, he's very creative. When we started, he didn't like talking about money. But after my experience with my divorce, it wasn't something that I was prepared to let go. So at the beginning, it was very, very hard. So we had to set up dates when we talked about money. And it was always, it would be a specific time, a specific day. Don't try to speak to your partner when he's trying to do the school run or, when he's trying to, I don't know, manage the kids or something like that. Set up some time and don't try to do everything in one go. Start slowly. And I think, it's very awkward, but we can't go through life without money unless you are, I don't know, a monk and you don't have to deal with money ever in your life. We all have to deal with money. And it's the second biggest reason why couples divorce. It's because of financial stress. So if you have the conversation early on in a relationship, afterwards it becomes so much easier and the life flows because goals are going to change. Life is going to get in the way. You're going to have problems. You're going to have children. So a lot of things can get in the way. But if you can have the conversation early on in a relationship, then you can set your boundaries and you can set the standards that it's going to be something that you're going to talk about.
And I guess you've just got to hope that whoever your partner is going to react well to being spoken to about it. And and be understanding.
Yeah. I always say to people, don't give up, because I spent years trying and it was very hard. It was stressful. It's so complicated. And I found ways to make things clear. So I realized that writing things down makes it easier for him to understand. What's the way that your partner likes to communicate? What's the way that it's going to be easier for them to understand and understand your point? Because it can be difficult and stressful.
And let's take the more difficult examples.
Hmm.
What would be a financial red flag in a relationship?
Oh man, there's so many. Infidelity. Um, there's a thing called financial infidelity, right? So if your partner hides things from you, such as debt or purchases and things like this,
Or I
or
guess even another income.
doesn't talk about how much they earn, I think for me these are red flags.
So not being freely open about their financial
Yes.
situation would be a red flag.
Yeah, yeah. I've even helped friends and friends that that have been in financial trouble, and the wife called me and said, "I'm exhausted. I'm very tired. Reaching out to you is my last resource because he keeps on getting into debt, and then I find out, then I clear the debt, and then he does it again. So I'm giving up. I don't know what else to do, but I can't live like that because we can't achieve our goals. We can never achieve our goals. And this was something that happened with me growing up. My mom was always running to cover my dad's debt. He would always find some debt, like not huge debt, but he would buy a farm and go, "Oh, now I need to pay for this farm. So I'm gonna, it's an incentive to work harder." And I remember my mom always being very stressed about having to cover my dad's debt.
And in the same area of conversation, what would you describe as financial gaslighting, and
Ooh.
how would you manage that? How would you advise that to be managed?
Oh dear, this is so hard because then it goes into people's relationship and the dynamic of the relationship. I think, when it gets to this stage, so many other things have happened. And when we're talking about, and we're going to, it's hard, domestic violence, finances is one of the biggest reasons why domestic violence happens. And I think, it goes way beyond finances. It's identifying and understand your partner's behaviors and being able to hold him accountable or her.
I agree, but I think what I'm getting at is more kind of how would one realize if that's being done to them, if that makes any sense.
Mm,
Because it's as you said, financial control uh, is often used in relationships.
yeah, I have an example. Good example. Again, somebody that we know. The woman said to me, because I help women invest from scratch. And, it comes from a place that they know absolutely nothing about investment. And then I guide them towards investing in stocks and shares. And she told me that she really wanted to invest. And then she said, "Okay, I want to know how much it's going to cost, how much I need to pay you, blah, blah, blah." So I told her, she said, "You can send me an invoice. I'm definitely going to go for it." And then she spoke to her husband. Husband said, "No, it's too much money. We can't afford this. We can't afford that." And then he went and made a big purchase on something else.
So that is financial control.
Yeah, yeah. So that is, and then she's always in this cycle that she never get control over because he always finds a reason to not to let her do what she wants financially.
And I'm glad you said this, because this is exactly what I want if anyone happens to listen to this and find themselves in that situation, to go, actually, hang on, maybe this is being done to me, because that's not right.
Yeah,
And it needs to be kind of laid out in black and white,
yeah,
what's right and what's wrong, and that is
yeah.
wrong.
And what is encouraging is that when a woman comes to me and they want to learn to invest, 90% of the time, their husbands don't have the knowledge either. So they learn and then they teach their children, they teach their husbands, and then they become very excited and sometimes even more advanced than them, but they make a start. I have a client whose kids started work, and then he said, okay, I'm going to save 30% of my salary because I'm still living at home and I'm going to start investing. I love doing this work with women because they are multipliers. They always share the knowledge. And that's my intention, that the knowledge is going to spread across the family and everybody's going to be educated when the woman is educated.
Which kind of answers the next question I was going to ask you. Are you aware of any myths that are created to keep women financially powerless?
There are so many. So many. It's not really a myth. It's real, right? When we talk about the pay gap, it's a real thing that happens. And I saw some stats the other day that for every pound a man has in retirement, a woman has 42 pence. This is definitely real. The one that I learned recently is a savings gap. Because men earn more, then they have a bigger capacity to save. So women's savings are also smaller. I'm not sure they are myths as such, but these are reality. This is our reality.
Well, I'm going to bring up a statistic that was given to me earlier. I bumped into Rachel this morning. Rachel was our first guest on the
Yeah, I
podcast.
saw the podcast.
And I told her you were coming on. She said, bring up this statistic because it's quite shocking. Maybe you knew this already, but I didn't. Only 2% of global VC investment, so venture capital investment from across the world,
Yeah.
goes to women.
Wow.
2%.
I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised, but even, when you think simple stuff about investing in stocks and shares, which is a much less complex investment than venture capital and less risky, I'd say. Then, if you compare the amount of women, and this is changing, which is a good thing, but the amount of women investing in stocks and shares versus men investing in stocks and shares, it's a huge gap. And today I delivered a financial well-being session. And then when I asked women about the kinds of investments, what's an investment? And they talked property and they talked bonds and shares. And then I said, nobody spoke about cryptocurrency. And then they went, oh, no, 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 no. Women don't really like risk. It's a natural thing. We crave for security. Obviously, when somebody's investing in their own business, there's a big risk. But women much prefer less risky investments. And maybe that's the reason why only 2% goes to, or venture capital investments go to women. It could be.
It's interesting. I don't think there are any clear answers, but it's a powerful statistic, which I think is important to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Going into your expertise,
Oh.
I've looked at your website, obviously.
Oh my goodness.
Your website mentions quite clearly, there are 5 steps to start investing in the UK.
Wow. Okay.
Can you go through these steps with us?
Wow, let me see if I remember. No. So I can talk about the steps. So the first step is to have a goal. So what are you trying to invest for? What's the reason why you invest? Because a lot of people don't have the reason, so they don't keep track of it. They don't stay on course. First of all is why you want to invest. The second one is to clear bad debt. And um, people don't realize what a bad debt is when you compare to good debt. Investing in a business is a good debt because you might have the return multiplied in the future, but paying credit card interest is very bad because it multiplies so fast that a lot of people get trapped into this kind of debt. The third one is having a budget. And when I'm talking about budget, then you go, what does that have to do with investing? It doesn't have to do with investing as such, but it will help you create space in your personal finances to invest. And I'm going to go much more than 5 steps here. The fourth one is having emergency funds. Emergency funds will allow you not to take your money out from your investment when the market is down. A lot of people are very scared of investing because they think, I'm going to lose money. You will lose money in stocks and shares if you take your money out when the market is having a, what we call a bear market time, which is low. But if you wait enough time, then it's going to go back up, because statistically, in more than 60% of the times the market is up, only 40% is down. But people panic. People who don't understand about investment, they panic and then they take the money out. So having emergency funds. Another thing that you need to be aware of is identifying what kind of investment is right for you. And when I ask this question, people often ask me, what's the best investment? I say, it's the one that you understand. That's a simple way to answer
And
it.
the one you can afford.
And you can afford, exactly. You can afford to lose also. But is understanding what you're getting yourself into and being able to control the risk so you don't lose money. But when I'm talking about investment in general, I'm specialized in investing in stocks and shares. So I'm not a specialist investing in property or crypto or anything like that. So that's my specialty. And then finding a platform that is secure, is low fees, is safe, and has the kind of investments that you want to put your money in, funding the account, and investing and automating it afterwards. If you want to find out more, you can download this free PDF ebook.
So what are the three, I mean, obviously this again, there's not three of these, there's probably hundreds of these, but what would you say are the three main mistakes that keep people stuck and stop them from investing?
Right. I don't know I invented this, but I've never seen this before. So I create a pyramid that has 3 stages. And the first stage, and it was inspired in a pyramid created by the Financial Conduct Authority that talks about people's financial needs, the hierarchy of financial needs. And then my pyramid is much more simplistic. It has only 3 stages. And the bottom of the pyramid, which is the largest area, is surviving. So it's making money and spending and paying bills and etc. A lot of people in the UK are only surviving. They don't have any money left at the end of the month. And that is because of cost of living and bad management, a combination. And so that's the first stage. The second stage is saving. So you're spending money, you're paying your bills, and you have some money left. So you're able to save. And so therefore you spend less than you earn. So you go to the next stage. And the third stage is investing. So you pay for everything you need to pay. You have some money left, but you've saved enough for like a cushion. And then you go to the next stage, which is investing. What I see a lot of people doing is that for 1 month, they have some money left and then they put in the investment. And then, the next month, they need the money. So they take the money out of investment. So they keep on going from survival to investment, investment to survival, without following the stages clearly and understanding, going back to their goals. What are they trying to achieve? And being consistent. So I see people losing a lot of money and being in this jumping up and down from investment to survival every month. That's what I see a lot of.
I think this survival tier, should we call it, of your pyramid, I think most people today, those immediately around me, that's where they are. And I probably include myself.
I agree.
And that's why for me, I mean, I'm getting you on here to talk about investments because I'm clueless. And one of the reasons I'm clueless is because I feel it's not something that applies to me right now, because it's just maybe the top of the pyramid is so far over there.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone like me? Because I feel it is all about survival right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most people I know are saying the same.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I can see too. But before all this happened with the cost of living and everything, and maybe when I had my corporate job, I was able to save 55% of my income. 55%. And I was on something like £4,000 a month, which is not a huge amount of money.
Gross.
Net.
Net.
And my mortgage was only £750.
But the thing is that if you had a £4,000 net salary today, your mortgage would not be 750.
Exactly.
So times are completely
But
different.
my mortgage has gone up a lot. And on top of that, now I'm an entrepreneur, so I don't make, some months I could make 4,000, but I have a fixed salary every month. And then everything's gone up, and I don't save and invest the same amount I used to, but I have the habit of investing. And this is a habit that I'm not prepared to let go of. So I do, if I can't invest £1,000 this month, I'm going to invest 200. If I can't invest 200, I'm going to invest 100 or 50. The habit is one of the hardest things for you to adopt, because everything that is going to happen to you is going to tell you, you see, Dorian, you shouldn't be investing because you need this money. But once you have the habit and you tell yourself, no matter what happens, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to take this money and put into investing. And then you can make it happen. That's how I do it. And obviously, some months I can't invest as much as I would like, but I always make it happen. And I have been investing in the stock market for the past 6 years. And it was the best thing that I've ever done with my money, because once you see the money growing, that is psychological, that you see, I not only don't want to lose this money, but I want to make it grow further. It gives you, there's some stats that were released that it gives you the peace of mind.
It gives you a bit of comfort.
It gives you comfort. It gives you well-being, and it helps you make good decisions in your life. Not only decisions that you make by fear, but by, excitement that you have money in your bank.
You mentioned debt earlier. You mentioned good debt and bad debt. Should someone focus on writing off all debt first or investing first?
Yeah. And the reason why I say clearing debt first is because the debt grows much faster than the investment. As an example, my credit card, if I don't pay, the full amount every month, the interest rate is 139%. It's huge. A year, obviously. So it's over 10% a month. But my investments in stocks and shares, they grow an average of 10% a year. So can you see the
10%,
comparison?
Yeah, but 10% a year is still a pretty good return on investment.
Yeah, if you compare to savings, obviously, savings are like 2%.
Yeah.
If you compare that, you can have 8 or 10%. But that's historical average. I'm not promising anybody returns here, because as a financial advisor,
and that's not what we do.
Yeah. But just so you understand the difference, that's why you should focus on clearing debt, because it can grow much faster than your investments.
What does financial freedom really mean?
Hi. Financial freedom is not a scientific expression or a definition. To me, financial freedom is having enough money invested, and it doesn't mean it's in the stock market only, invested, that produces returns to cover your expenses and your lifestyle. That's what financial freedom is.
That to me sounds like paradise.
A lot of money.
That sounds like a dream, to have my investments covering my living expenses. Wow.
Exactly.
I mean,
but it can happen. Obviously, you need to know how to do the calculations, but it can happen. In the stock market, it takes time. Not saying it doesn't, but to give an example, I've been investing for 6 years, but once you reach a certain threshold of investment, it doubles faster and faster. So they say once you reach your first 100,000 invested in the stock market, the next 100,000 is going to come much faster than the first 100,000. So that's what is keeping me motivated right now.
Well, I'm just imagining having 100,000 invested, but I'll get there, I'm sure.
You will, I'm sure.
Something which you've made clear on your social media and to me, speaking to me, is you quite clearly separated what is a financial educator to what is a financial advisor.
Wow.
What is the difference?
Oh, thank you so much for asking this question. It's very important for people to understand. And that's why I say I'm an educator by mission and advisor by profession. An educator. So let me go the simple. Everybody understands what an advisor does. An advisor is going to do what you want with your money and is going to charge you a fee. However, advisors in the UK, the majority of the advisors, if you go on the websites and search, they're not going to work with people that have less than £250,000 to invest. And why? And I don't blame them. The amount of work involved in actually doing the advice and the paperwork to invest somebody's money is huge. And I'm doing that. I'm in the middle of that right now. It's huge. So advisors only want to work with people who have money because the Financial Conduct Authority make us do a lot of paperwork to make sure that client is protected. That's one thing. But an educator, for me, it doesn't matter if you have £1 or £1 million to invest. I'm going to charge a fixed fee, and it's not a percentage of the amount of money that you have. It's going to be a fixed fee that, you're going to have the knowledge, then you go and apply it to your life. You take care of your accounts. I don't have access to anybody's account as an educator. But, I have a client, she's making £16,000 a year. She's a cake maker. So she doesn't make a lot of money, but she paid me quite a lot of money for me to teach her. But then she's going to have the returns. Obviously, after she pays me, she can start to have the returns this year, next year, in 20 years, in 30, in 40 years. And you paid a fixed fee once. Obviously, you can go back and have reviews, but the advisor is going to charge you an initial fee, which is normally a percentage of your investment. And then every year is going to charge you a fee to continue to manage your investments. And that doesn't exist as an educator. And that is very hard for people to understand that, yes, you might invest quite a lot of time on year one, but afterwards, you're going to have this return, as many times as you like.
So I guess you're making information more affordable and accessible.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I don't choose clients as an educator for, however much money they have. As an advisor, yes, because of my time. Otherwise, I'm going to be paying to work, you know?
Let's talk about beginners investing.
Yeah.
Where do you start?
You start with educating yourself. That's where I would start because a lot of people, they what they want is not very realistic. They said, I'm going to invest £100 and next year I want to start taking a salary from that money. It's not how this works. It's really not. As I said, I've been investing for 6 years and I'm investing quite a healthy amount of money. And I'm not even thinking about taking a salary from this investment. Serious investment in stocks and shares is going to take time. And 5 years is the bare minimum amount of time that I'd say that you have to be invested to start seeing the results. It takes time and people give up before they can see the results. That's why, but as I said, start educating yourself and understanding what's realistic and then start creating space in your personal finances to allow you to not only open an account and put some money there, but be a disciplined and consistent investor because that's what is going to make a lot of difference. People think I'm going to open an account, put £5,000 and I'm forget about it, and in 10 years time I'm a millionaire. It's not how it works. Money needs money to grow, at least in stocks and shares.
Here's something which, when researching this, I thought I really want to ask you, because I think it's something which is very pertinent today. It's all around us and is getting more and more advanced.
Yeah.
How do you spot a financial scam?
Wow. Do you know, this is a very good question. Thank you so much for asking because the scams have increased over 200% after COVID, which is shocking.
And they're getting better.
Yeah, they're getting better and smarter. But as a rule of thumb, if something sounds too good to be true, it's a fraud. A lot of people say, and I say this on my Instagram, they say, we can guarantee you a return of 36%. Scam. Nobody can guarantee any returns on anything. And if it's too good to be true, it's because it's not real. And I say to people sometimes, do you want to learn how to be rich slowly? Because that's what I'm going to teach you, how to be rich slowly. Nobody wants that, Dorian. That's people want to believe that there is a silver bullet out there and they just don't know it. And it's only happening to them, when they see these opportunities.
And do you think that's becoming more and more a modern day problem?
And there's a book. I can't remember the book name, but anyway, it says that Americans, they spend about $600 every year playing the lottery. And that is because they believe it's easier for them to win the lottery than to build wealth. And therefore, they don't even try to build wealth. They would rather rely on luck to be rich. But as with anything, if you want to be a specialist in anything, it's going to take time, investment, energy, discipline, consistency. So it's the same with your money.
Do you play the lottery?
No, I used to a long time ago, but I don't. I don't believe in lottery, and I get a lot because I say that, but I don't. I don't believe in lottery.
Here's something which I think is going to be very personal to you in
Oh
terms
dear.
of advice. Planning to move abroad on a budget.
You didn't tell me this was coming. Right.
No, but this isn't. I mean, I'm not referring to you in particular, but I know you're aware of it.
Yeah.
So let's say someone, they're in the bottom rung of your pyramid. They're surviving,
Yeah.
but they'd really like to move abroad.
Yeah. Right. So people need to be aware of their choices, right? For example, you speak English and Spanish, your wife speaks English and she's Brazilian. So I think we always need to be aware of our reality. And I've been having conversations with my husband and thinking, is it worth be working so hard as much as we do to survive in London? And London is becoming more and more expensive, and we are seeing a lot of people leave in London because they can't afford. So what I would go and say to people, do your research and do the planning properly, including the financial planning to allow you to build, if you want to move abroad, to, start again somewhere else. Upskill yourself if you need to. Learn a language. I've been learning a second language for the past 2 years. Learn a language, upskill yourself, have some savings, visit the place that you potentially want to move into, understand what, are you going to rent? How much is rent? How much do you think you need every month to be able to survive? And that's my own personality. I don't do things just, I'm just gonna, I'm not that kind of person who says, I spend £10,000 on my credit card and hope for the best. I'm not that kind of person. I plan. And even if I make a mistake, my mistakes will be all controlled because that's the person I am, and not to make anybody around me suffer.
But were you always like that, or did you learn to become like that?
I've always been like that. And that comes, from my childhood, and thinking that from a very early age, I thought I was responsible for things that I wasn't responsible for growing up. It's not always a good thing.
Something which you brought up on another podcast I listened to, it caught my attention and I wanted to ask you about it because it's something I don't know about. You referred to as having experienced in the past burnout.
Ooh.
And you said something along the lines of now basically building your life in a way to avoid it from happening again.
Yeah.
What do you feel you learned from that experience?
Financial advisor, financial educator, and specialist in burnouts. Do you know the first burnout I had, I was still back in Brazil teaching, and I thought it was pneumonia because I had such terrible back pain and I thought it was coming from my lungs. and it was just tension around my back. And I don't, so that was back, that was 25 years ago. And I always had burnout because whenever I do something, I give my all to everything. And I don't know how to, I do counseling to learn the balance. Because for me, it's either doing a lot of things and burning myself out or doing nothing.
I am really resisting
Go
saying
on,
what's on my mind right now.
please do.
No, I'm not going to. No. But you're not the only person I know who's like that. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
Yeah. I can understand. So
Is that everything or nothing? I mean, I think balance is the hardest thing to achieve.
it's very hard. And especially having a business. I don't know about you and how you feel, but I never stop thinking about my business.
Well, you can't.
I'm always thinking about it. I'm always having an idea. I always think about content. I always think about this new service, this new
You
product.
can't. You're spinning plates. And especially something like this. I
Yeah.
mean, the amount of work
And
and
you're
a
responsible
headspace,
for staff, for the,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And try doing that with a little kid as well. It's even more crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine. And for me, it's finding now, I feel that I've found, I'm finding a balance between how many clients do I need to have, but not only that is how much money do I need to make or want to make, and then understanding how many clients I need to have and how much I'm going to charge them. Otherwise, I'm going to go insane, because since I started Master Your Finances 6 years ago, I realized that I was undercharging for the amount of value that I was providing clients. And I was burning myself out because I was working a lot, but not getting paid well for what I was getting, for what I was doing. And then now, it's a matter, do you want to have this knowledge? You have to be able to pay for it. What my mentor said to me once, if you're constantly burning yourself out because you're undercharging, you're never going to achieve the life that you're preaching.
But you have to find the confidence to be able to value yourself and
That's
charge
right.
what you should be. And that's difficult.
Yeah, and I never started charging what I'm charging when I first started. And some people do that and they struggle. So I was gradually. So I did financial education and then financial coaching and then psychology and financial planning, financial advice, financial planning, retirement. I have a lot of qualifications now that give me not only the credentials, but the confidence to charge that I'm going to provide the returns for the client.
Why do most people fail with money?
Because I think they struggle to separate money from their emotions. And I'm blamed of that myself, because if you think about the way you deal with money, you learn from somebody, and it's because you respected that person, and in a way it's like you want to honor, or it's what you know, right? Classic example. My mom is a money hoarder. My dad was very disorganized. I used to look at it and say, I'm definitely not going to be like my dad, because my dad believed in debt. So it was by acquiring debt that, according to him, he would achieve his life goals. And my mom is a money hoarder. She didn't even know what she was saving for, but she was always saving. Then I thought, obviously, I became a money hoarder, you know, when I was 20 years old. But then I thought, I don't want that. I want to be able to enjoy life. Then I went to, right, what's the middle ground here? I don't want to go crazy like my dad, but I don't want to be a hoarder like my mom. So then I found, with knowledge, self awareness, personal development, I found a middle ground. I enjoy life, but I also save and I also invest. And if you don't recognize this by yourself, you're going to start repeating these patterns that you learned growing up without questioning them. And they are very much attached to emotions like shame or anger or destruction, a lot of emotions that were not. I was very ashamed of being poor growing up. Or I lived in a very nice neighborhood. I went to a very nice private school, and I didn't have anything that my neighbors or my friends had. And I was very ashamed. And I felt that my family's personal finances was always going backwards. And I used to see my friends' family, building houses and buying this and that. But I could never afford that, or my parents could never afford that. So there was a lot of shame growing up. And I was ashamed of even talking to people that I thought had more money than me. That's crazy.
I think it's fascinating, and this probably sets you apart, maybe from a lot of other financial advisors. And I think we really should kind of congratulate you and make this clear. But having a background in psychology when working with financial advice, I think it should be a prerequisite,
Yeah.
because I think they're inextricably linked.
Yeah.
You know, psychology and money.
Yeah.
Uh, People get stuck in holes of negative spirals,
Yeah.
not find their way out. Other people can find themselves growing and growing and growing and doing really well. And I don't think it's just as a result of the external decisions they've made.
Absolutely. I have a client, and she doesn't mind if I share that. She has PhD in maths, and she was in bad debt. I have clients who work in banks and are in debt. So it doesn't matter if you don't understand what's underneath the surface. I have a friend who is an economist and she's in terrible debt. And she always says to me, I know everything that needs to be done, but I just don't do it. Why is that?
I think you're asking exactly the right question. Why are you not acting?
Yeah.
There is something keeping you in that position. However, there are people who might know what needs to be done and might not be able to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, that is true as well.
I mean, as you say, I can't. I keep thinking of this pyramid you mentioned, and all of these people down at the bottom just surviving. And I'm thinking, are people going to listen to this and listen to this podcast and go, but I can only do that if I've got a surplus of cash.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people who will think that, because I'm thinking that.
Yeah, but I believe that money, you're never gonna have money left. Money is not gonna say, "Oh, Dorian's very nice. He works so hard. Let me just be spared the end of the month." You you need to decide who is owning who. You own your money, or does your money own you? And once you start behaving like this, and I say in Portuguese, dinheiro não aceita desaforo, which means that money is not going to accept insult,
Yeah.
you know? And if you decide that you own your money and it's going to do what you want, because money is like, we say money is like it's blunt. It can either be used for good or bad, but you need you give money a meaning, right? And if you decide that your money is going to do something for you, you need to own it. And that's what I see. I see people victims of their own money and their own life. But if you change positions and you say, my money does what I want, I think, it's not easy, Dorian. I promise you, and I promise everybody who's listening to this podcast, it's hard for everybody right now. You're not the only person. Even for me, it's hard. I can't do what I used to before, but I'm still owning my money and taking responsibility. And that's one of the biggest pillars of my business. It's self responsibility and autonomy for you to make your own financial decisions.
So let's take an example of someone listening to this who's in the survival mode, the survival bracket. They just get by each month. They have debt.
Yeah.
What would your first advice be to someone like that? I know what I'm already thinking, um, and I would probably think that you would say, right, living with debt is fine. Just get rid of the bad debt and keep the manageable debt, or something along those lines.
Yeah. There's so many strategies and so much support out there. As an example, this year I worked with two clients who had more than £20,000 in debt. And just by using these strategies, they saved over £16,000 each in interest that they didn't pay. because they did something. So there are credit cards that you can use to, use the strategy to transfer the debt.
You mentioned an organization to me.
Yes.
Are we allowed to name organizations or not? I don't know.
I don't know, but I'm
But
going to mention what they
we
are.
can say how they
Yeah,
function,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So credit cards is being one of them. There's a card, there's several types of credit card. One that is called balance transfer, but this is subject to your credit score being good. And also you have to, understand that if you don't honor the payments, it can get worse. The other one is using credit unions.
That's
So credit unions,
yeah.
a lot of people, my father-in-law, he loans money to credit unions. So credit unions can loan money to the public, lend money to the public at very low or much lower interest rate. Another one is and this I can name, there are a lot of institutions out there, including charities. There's one called Step Change, which is a fantastic charity that can help people understand, manage their debt. And you can also go to, I think it's called Money Helper. And there's a website that I know it's called MAPS, MAPS.org, which is a government website. There's a lot of support there, free support for people who need help. So there's a lot of strategies. And what I say to people, sometimes people come to me, I'm a private company. I don't have the authority to negotiate debt with a credit card. So what I say is I can help you in early stages, but once things escalate and your credit score is compromised and everything, it's very hard for me to do something. But these other institutions can help you.
I want to go out there and say from my personal experience, we challenged uh, a big. This was on the business.
Yeah.
We had a company credit card. It was debt. It was starting to spiral, and we were advised by a friend to challenge the
Interest.
not well to challenge the credit card company and tell them quite straight, sorry,
Yeah.
can't afford to pay it. You're going to have to meet us in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, that's pointless. You don't do that. Credit card companies don't do that. They're faceless, soulless organizations which do not care about you and will just swallow you up whole. Incredibly, we managed to write off 50%.
That's great. Because in all fairness,
by going direct to them and saying it straight. These are our options.
yeah.
This is what we can do. So either that or nothing.
Yeah.
And they went with it. And I honestly couldn't believe it.
I'm confident that over 50% is just interest.
Exactly.
So
pretty much.
the actual money that you owe them, it must be less than 50%.
Actually, they it was a lot more than interest that they were prepared to write off.
Okay.
And that's what shocked me.
Yeah. But banks and institutions, they have this kind of like rainy day fund when people default and can't pay. So they have this, they have to.
Something I want to bring up for people who may not pay attention to this, I think today a lot more people are savvy. I'm definitely more savvy of it, and I try and look after it like I do like watering a plant or something. Can you explain what a credit score is and how important it is to look after it?
So credit score is your grade given by what do I say, agencies and things that you do. It's how to track your financial behavior. And companies have also, score, and businesses have score. We have as an individual. So it's going to say if you're being a good citizen when it comes to paying your bills and paying your bills on time. So as an example, if you you don't pay your credit cards on time, if you open lots of bank accounts, if you have lots of credit cards, this is telling the bank that you are not you're not a very good payer. I don't know if that's a word, but you don't pay well, or it's risky to lend you money. If you have, if you apply to lots of credit cards, and that's going to put marks into your credit score. And it's basically, for example, if you move houses a lot, this can damage your credit score. And then people go, what does that have to do with it? So it says to the banks that you have a very unstable life. And if you, for example, apply for lots of credit cards, then it's telling the bank that you don't have stability financially, or if you spend more than 50% of the credit card limit, is telling the bank this person can't afford the lifestyle they have, and they have to keep borrowing money from the credit card. And that's why I say to people, pay your credit card your full balance every month, and don't spend more than 50% of your credit card limit, because this is all going to be stored somewhere, and it depends on the person's issue. It takes something like 6 months for you to clear your credit score. And I did something.
So every 6 months it kind of refreshes.
Yeah. So I did something. I bought a mentoring program for, I think, was something like $10,000, and my credit card limit was £13,000. And when I went to renew my mortgage, it had something on my credit score to say that I had gone over, I had spent more than 50% of my credit card limit. And this was a problem for me. Although, I paid a credit card, I had money to afford it, and it was all fine, but that left a mark on my credit score.
Because that's exactly what I was going to ask you. What is the potential danger of not looking after your credit score? Is moving ahead, not getting mortgage, not getting...
You can't even get a contract for your phone, or being able to rent a place. So there's a lot of things that can contribute. Even not voting can compromise your credit score, or not
being registered to vote.
Not being registered to vote. Thank you.
And there are things that happen by mistake. Like the other day, this really pissed me off. I was just shopping around for credit cards, just curious.
Yeah.
Need to get one out, nothing. And I went to one of these price comparison sites and said, put in your details, we'll tell you which one's best for you. I put my details. Next thing I know, because I'm signed up to Experian Plus or whatever it is, I get an email from Experian saying, a credit search has been done on your background. This is now being recorded on your file. And I was like, hang on. I was just window shopping.
Yeah, but there's something called eligibility check. And this is a pre-check that you can do, and it's not going to compromise your credit score. So before...
But this came from Experian.
Yeah, so you might have gone straight to the credit card without doing the eligibility check. So eligibility check is the check that you can do. So then all the agencies are going to see, Dorian has this amount of money compromised every month. He's got a dependent, blah, blah, blah. He's going to pay that. He pays that in rent. And then they're going to check, how likely are this credit card to give you a credit card. But this doesn't compromise your credit score.
Oh, it doesn't, does it?
No, it doesn't. The eligibility check should be done before you apply for a credit card.
Because one thing that I do, even though obviously, in the world we are, I count myself as one of the survivors, not one of the savers right now. And I do have debt, but I have managed to clear all bad debt and only keep good debt. And what I'm also very aware of is looking after my my credit score.
Yeah.
I really look after it.
But I find that people in the UK are a bit obsessed with credit score. What I say to people is just pay your bills on time. Don't lose your sleep over it. If you are, there was something that came up when I went to renew my mortgage, that my name was still under a mortgage or something to do with my first husband. Something that we were never aware. This is something that we should be aware of. If he was doing something silly with his money, then my name was on it as well. So we need to be aware, but I would say don't lose your sleep over it. Just keep on being, on time with your bills and putting everything on direct debit and pay your credit card balance in full every month. This thing should be enough.
One thing I also want to bring up, because I think it is tied into the credit report, and this can really affect you, is hopefully you can give us a little bit of info on this and how people can protect themselves. Identity theft.
Oh dear.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
It's a really big thing.
Yeah.
People suddenly finding someone's applied for a loan in their name, taking a credit card in their name, taking a mobile phone in their name.
Yeah.
Are you aware of how we can best try to avoid this?
Oh dear. I I think I would struggle as much as you do. I'm very conscious about where I enter my information, and if I don't have to put all the piece of information somewhere, I don't. And yeah, I no, I don't know. Obviously, I protect my computer, so my computer has a lot of protection because obviously I'm managing people's data, and I also protect my phone.
Because
I
I'm not just referring to identity theft. I'm also including scams in this because I actually got scammed.
Yeah.
I got scammed by a credit card scammer.
Oh my goodness.
Uh, Took about 25,000 pounds from a business credit card.
Wow.
And this is going back a few years. This was in the early days of this scam, which is a very famous scam now.
Wow.
Um, a lot of people know about it, and I probably should shed light on it. People call you up from your bank, sounding very legit from your bank. They'll have a lot of information on you already,
Wow.
and they'll read this information back to you. They'll get you to confirm it, and they're
Mm.
probably missing one little bit of information, which they'll then say is a security question. You'll answer, you give it to them, and boom, they've got access to everything. They can clear bank accounts, they can clear credit cards, and it happened to me. It happened to a friend of mine. In fact, it's happened to several people I know.
Wow.
This is going back a few years now, as I said, but I know it's still going on.
Yeah. I went on a training session the other day about how to protect us and our client and our business, and action fraud. And it's a website in the UK. Action fraud has a video. Actually, somebody in a coffee shop, and then the person says, "What's your name?" No, he said, "Like our social media page. If you like our social media page in a coffee shop, we're going to give you a free coffee." So while the person is liking and the other person is serving, there's somebody in the background taking all the information from social media and just saying, "Oh, you're Dorian, you have a daughter." And then the person goes, "What? How did you find all this information?" It's information that people enter online, and they're not aware that there's so much personal data out there
I had
that
my
people can
email
steal.
address read back to me, and my phone number read back to
Yeah,
me, and my business address read back to me. They already had all of this. So this is all
yeah.
out there. It's no longer secret. In fact, they tried again 2 weeks ago.
Oh my
They
goodness.
rang, I got a call from a, "Hi, we're calling from your bank." I said, "Really?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Which bank?" And they pronounced it differently. And I
Oh,
said, "Good try." And I hung up. So they're still doing it.
yeah.
And they're very convincing, and they've got these call center background noises that makes them sound like they're in a call
Wow.
center.
Yeah. The
Um,
other day I received a text about having like a penalty for my car, like a ticket. And I'm classic. I get it all the time. And then I said, "Oh, and then it was a text message, but it sounded so legit, and it wasn't. So we really need to be aware of
well,
it.
the main advice I would give to anyone if they do receive these scam messages and says is always hang up, go on Google and look at the official number of the official website and call them yourselves.
There's a good tip.
Is there an age limit to investing? I.e., and I'm not talking about the lower age limit, I'm talking about the upper age limit here, whereby it starts to become high risk for someone to be playing around with their money because of their old age.
Yeah. I don't think there's an age limit. We are living longer. So women's life expectancy in the UK is 87 and men is 84. There are ways that you can invest that you're not going to take as much risk being 60 years old as somebody who is 20. So there are always different ways that you can invest. I don't think there is an age limit.
And going to the other end of the spectrum now, um, are we teaching and educating our children and young people enough on how to manage money?
Enough is a difficult question, but not we, but the UK government has woken up to educating children around money. And you can start educating your child from a very young age. You can start educating Nina as soon as she starts talking. But there's so much being done. There's some books being printed and sent to schools to educate children with money, and it's something that it was a shame that we didn't have this opportunity at school, and we were learning things that were so less useful today, I would say. But I think there's a lot being done. But I also think there's a lot of work that needs to be done with the parents. Because if they didn't have education, so how can they educate their children? Obviously, they can learn at school, but then, what about at home?
Is there any? I'm not. I don't know what the current curriculum is for schooling. Is there anything on finances and money in there? Do you know? Are you aware of anything or not?
I wouldn't be able to put give you names and stuff, but I know things are being done at school, and it's because it's not my target market,
Yeah.
but I know things are being done at school. Not every school, and I always hear people saying, "Oh, we should. Why did we not learn this at school?" And what people should ask is, "Yes, I have not learned at school. What can I do now to change that and be able to change my future, my financial future now?"
And lastly, what are the biggest topics in your world right now? What are people coming to you with questions?
A very hot topic at the moment, not only for me, but also for the government and a lot of people, is retirement. Because, probably for your parents, definitely for my parents, they retired with their final salary. But now our generation is going to retire with the amount of money that we accumulate throughout our working careers. And the average amount of pension pot somebody has in the UK today is £36,000. How many years could you live in retirement with £36,000?
I'm thinking maybe 6 months.
6 months, exactly. So that is something that people should really be thinking about and planning for and contributing towards, because we don't know if the state pension is going to exist. And the state pension today is £12,000 a year. And a lot of people only rely on the state pension, but we don't know if it's going to exist. We don't know. People are aging and putting more pressure into the state to provide that. We don't know if it's going to exist.
And at what stage should people start planning for their retirement?
To me, as soon as they start working. As soon as one starts working, they should start thinking, contributing, actively managing their retirement. Because I speak to people all the time saying, "Oh, I have this pension from a job that I had 15 years ago. I don't know where it is. There's so many lost pensions out there, so much that the government has a website that can help you track your pensions." And yeah, there's a lot that can be done or has to be done, because time is the biggest asset in personal finances. The sooner you start working towards something with money, the more returns you can have because you have time.
Before we go, can you tell people how they can find you, how they can reach you, your website, your social media channels, etc., etc.?
So my website is masteryourfinances.co.uk. They can find me on LinkedIn with my name, Letícia Fonseca, or Instagram, leticiafonseca.myf, which is the initials of my business, Master Your Finances. leticiafonseca.myf.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I
You're very
love being
welcome.
here.
If you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel.